Slipknot dies. I sorry, all you Slipknot fans. He's not going to be back for Suicide Squad 2. If we get one of those.
I was just gonna say, does that really need to be a thing?
Yeah,
I,
it's going to be, whether we like it or
didn't
not.
even really.
We had a sequel to Man of. Well, it wasn't a sequel to Man of Steel. It was just a.
We were just like, oh, okay. By the way, here's this dude, and by the way, the thing in your neck that's gonna make you explode, it's not real. Oh wait, it is. And he died.
Yeah. Welcome to the podcast, Carter, as usual. And this week we have two unexpected guests. Always a fun surprise. Nick, welcome back.
Yeah, thanks. Appreciate it.
And a very special guest as well. He is Edna Mode, as you would say.
He's Edna Mode and guest.
And that is Calum from the Cast Pod. How are you?
Hello, I'm good. Glad to be here.
Great to hear. Great to hear. How has everyone's week been going?
Doing all right.
Yeah, it was pretty good.
It was going well, and then we saw Suicide Squad, and I can't tell if it got better or if it got worse.
Yeah.
I'm still trying to figure it out.
Yeah. In case, for much like Suicide Squad, we are going to explain things ad nauseum. So yes, we did all see Suicide Squad. That's why we brought Calum in as like a third voice of reason to our madness. To sort of counteract the Marvel fanboyism on my end. Yeah, so we're that's going to be primarily what we talk about this episode. We have a couple topics. Real quick, I just wanted to say I just got back from Buffalo, New York. I was there for a wedding.
Buffalo.
Yes.
Oh, I can't see it.
Yeah,
Is that Camp
Calum was doing an extremely adequate hand gesture, but this is a podcast, so
yeah, I do the same thing.
That's a very eclectic reference. Is that Camp Laszlo?
That is Camp Laszlo.
I
remember it.
I literally didn't even know it was from.
It's from Camp Laszlo. Do you have any water? That was good stuff.
God, weird era. That's a really weird era of animation.
You're right.
Where
that was a weird era.
Just all the character designs were weird. Everything looked like it had a yellow pea filter on it. It was a weird time.
Really
Times were different. Yeah.
So you were in Buffalo.
Yeah, I was in Buffalo for a wedding. A relative of mine, Jay, just got married to a lovely girl, Shasha. He met her in China, actually. He was over there teaching English, and they met through mutual friends. And
that's a cool story.
She came to the States to get married, which
I
was
like
nice.
that.
Oh,
That's
yeah,
cool.
it was really
Congrats.
cool. It was kind of weird, though. It was, well, not weird. It was just interesting because she couldn't really bring that many friends or relatives over. So
Right.
it was just her mom, who didn't really speak English. And I wanted to talk to her more, but I'm like, what the heck could I reasonably talk about? Because, I mean, I think they were like from further west, like not Beijing or Hong Kong. So I'm like, what do I even like? Do I ask them about what it's like? I mean, they were super cool. It was really nice to meet them. It seems like they were a cute couple. The wedding was fun. Here's a new rule: if your church doesn't have AC and your priest is very, very showy with his sermons, then you should not have a wedding in August, especially when global warming is more and more becoming a reality. It's not supposed to be 90 degrees in Buffalo. It isn't.
Calum, were you writing that down?
I know this now. For my next wedding, I will be prepared.
All right.
Good
stuff.
Yeah. Mother effor's got married like 4 times, and and don't know where he gets the money, but each time it is a bash.
Oh man,
That is a
I
fact.
get wasted every time, like
Whoa,
break a bone.
Whoa. This is a kid's show.
He's
All
not
right.
lying though. It's okay.
Yeah. But yeah, it was really fun. It was, the reception was lovely. They had some pretty good food, lots of drinks. I guess I don't want to dive too much into like the personal stuff, but it was really sweet. I haven't seen most of those people in like 15 to like 10 years, so it was really cool to catch
You've
up.
been going 20 there, and I was like,
I'm like, that
pretty
can't
sure
be
you're only
accurate.
about 20 years
Yeah.
old. So.
But I had a delightful time. Honestly, the just going to Buffalo was so cool because I haven't been there in so long, and it's sort of infamous for being a part of the Rust Belt, which is like that little area that used to be big on like manufacturing and steel and stuff, and that sort of shrank up, like Cleveland, Detroit, Pittsburgh, Baltimore, and Buffalo. But honestly, looking at it now, Buffalo, out of all of those, it's probably only behind Pittsburgh in terms of like cities on the recovery. Although that's not really saying much because Cleveland's a punchline where the rivers catch on fire. Baltimore's a hotbed for like racial tensions, and the Baltimore Ravens. And Detroit is just it's Detroit. I actually was born in Detroit too, so I have connections to two fledgling steel cities.
Wow, look at that.
Well
Yeah.
done, well done.
But like I'm walking around the waterfront. They used to be pretty barren, save for this cool World War II era ship. There's so much stuff there now. There's a boardwalk. There's all these little stores. It's so like I just imagine a city planning meeting where like the mayor's just like F guys, we gotta we don't have any money. What are we gonna do? And there's all these like equations and like plans on a board. And all of a sudden, someone goes like, hey, I was thinking we have this nice canal waterfront. What if we put stuff there? And everyone just freezes. My
It's been right there all along.
Yeah, and the Sabres stadium was all renovated and super nice. Went to see Ralph Wilson Stadium. Some Buffalo Jills, the cheerleaders were actually Buffalo Jill was getting married, and you could tell they were cheerleaders because they had these blue dresses that it's like you would have to get them custom made to be that shade. I'm sorry, Nick.
Wait.
Ooh.
The cheerleaders for the Buffalo Bills are called the Buffalo Jills?
Yes, it is a bad pun. I actually
This is terrible.
the funniest thing.
What are we doing?
The funniest thing is, I've been dating a girl named Jill for like 7 years, and I didn't even think of that until I got back to Buffalo, and I'm like, you know what's funny?
I thought you were kidding.
No, I'm dead
I thought you were
serious.
just
I'm
making
deadly
up a name.
serious.
No, I just accepted it. I was like, that sounds right.
Yeah. So yeah,
Unbelievable stuff.
Buffalo.
I guess I gotta get up to date on my my cheerleading
Yeah.
news.
Yeah.
The waterfront's gorgeous. There's this new trolley system running through Main Street. There's this cool little area that's just all shops and like stores. It's so interesting though because you can tell it's still like a work in progress because there's this whole road that's just all barren, like empty shops and stuff. But there's like construction and all this stuff. I don't know. I've spent so much time in New York, and it's like New York is sort of it's not stagnant.
It's
but
on a different level.
yeah, it's like everything that's there is sort of just there. There's very little changing at any given time. Whereas this entire city feels like it's being rebirthed, and that's kind of cool.
Word.
It really gets your spirits up.
I like that.
Yeah, I was actually in a hotel called the Hotel Lafayette. It was built in the turn of the century for this Pan American conference that Teddy Roosevelt attended. It was actually built by the first professional woman architect, which I think is pretty cool.
Right.
Apparently, she was so good that when she applied for the World Architects Organization, they had to change the charter rules just to let her in because they're like, we gotta have her. Which
Nice.
I think is cool.
It's cool.
Yeah,
stuff.
so that was a pretty good time. Also, I got a cat. Her name is Cinder. She's Nikki.
I've heard about this.
My mom just one day is just like, I'm going to check out this cat. I'm like, Mom, we don't have the space for a cat right now.
Do it, Mom.
And then she like just comes in with the cat, and I start having panic attacks. And then I'm like, well, we could still return her because it's a foster, and we're just testing her out. But then my dad starts talking to her in a voice like, "What are you doing, little Cinder? You going to get a snack?" And I'm just like, no.
Oh, you hate
So
to see it.
the family vote that was to be
Never happened.
never happened.
Any fun family stories on your ends?
The cats.
I definitely do not have a cat. That is my fun story.
Yeah, I don't have a cat either.
You have a dog.
I have a dog.
I do have a dog.
Pretty cool dog.
The dog's a fraidy cat, though.
Oh!
Oh! Wrecked.
It's-
World star.
Love my dog, but she's a little crazy.
Mm.
All right, we've wasted enough time talking about my lifestyle choices. What do we want to move on to? Do we want to go right into the Suicide Squad, or do we want to do some Olympic stuff first?
I think it doesn't matter to me.
I just want to. I mean, maybe we could save the Olympics for unless Calum, you have any antidotes in particular you want to talk about.
No, not really. I think the Suicide Squad is really what I have the most to say about.
Okay, good. I just want to say, if you're not following Leslie Jones on Twitter, please do, because,
Oh God.
a few weeks after being sort of forced off Twitter by harassers, she has come back swinging with a pretty much running commentary of the Olympics. Just videos pretty much every 10 minutes. it
Viewer
would appear like.
discretion is advised.
Oh yeah, she gets
Oh,
a
yeah.
bit sweary, but God bless her. She is a treasure. She's funny. She busts a ghost for a living. I love her. Good for her.
That was funny, man.
Like if there was any one thing that was gonna get me excited for another season of SNL, it was probably gonna be that. And here we go, Suicide Squad.
Oh, yeah.
All right, I've made my opinions very clear on Batman v Superman. Is it that bad? No. Is it bad? Yes. Guys, thoughts?
Kind of the same thought process I think for Suicide Squad. Is like I didn't dislike the movie. Like when I was watching it, I enjoyed watching it, but at the same time, I knew it was bad. You know?
That's a really good way of putting it.
Yeah, it's just like I can't say it's good, but I definitely did not dislike watching it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I woke up this morning and I was like, you know what? If someone asked me to go see it again, I probably would, just because there were a couple parts that I was
Yeah.
like, you know what? It was funny, like funnier than I thought it was going to be.
Oh,
And some
yeah.
of the actors individually did a really nice job. I think Will Smith did a really good job.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But just, I was so confused like the whole time.
I
just
that's an
Yeah.
understatement.
I just didn't know, like, I don't know. There was just nothing for me to. Every time I thought that I had something, that I was like, they're gonna move along with this, or they're gonna go in this direction. It was just like, nope,
Yeah.
we're
It's
just kidding.
2 steps
we're just
forward
gonna,
and then a
we're
giant leap
just gonna,
backwards.
Yeah.
we're just gonna bring Slipknot out of a car. He's gonna knock out an FBI agent and
Yeah.
then die 10 minutes later. Like,
Yeah.
oh, okay, that's cool. Like,
I had a problem with that. Like the two characters that zero background when they were brought in, they're like, oh, also these two.
Yeah.
Like just hopped
It's
on
like
the helicopter.
we waste like almost 40 minutes introducing all these characters
That was a problem.
over
Yeah.
multiple times.
that was
Yeah.
a problem.
There was at least 3 different intros for Deadshot where it's like, you
Yeah.
know, we see him, some backstory, then we see the dossier thing, and then we see him again when it's like, how good can you shoot?
And we were discussing that the most that the Joker appears in this movie is during Harley Quinn's backstory.
Yeah.
exactly.
Which is like,
Yeah, the
I-
most iconic
where-
villain in comic book history, and all he is some flashbacks, and then, well, we'll get to Jared Leto's Joker.
Yeah.
I mean, in terms of, all right, this film is a nightmare in terms of editing and pacing. Like, there's a term called film economy where it's like, okay, every single scene needs to bring something new or build on stuff or, like, progress everything. There is none of that. This is the most economically bare movie I've ever seen, where we just have repeat scenes and repeat scenes and repeat scenes and backtracking and repeat scenes and, like, no connective tissue when they're supposed to... Like, all of a sudden, Harley Quinn and Deadshot are talking like they're, like sort of flirting with each other.
I looked over
And
at
yeah.
Carter and
Yeah.
I was like,
Nick, you literally go, when did
when-
this happen?
Can we doing spoilers? Are we doing?
Yeah, I don't
Yeah.
care.
Yeah.
I don't
So
care.
after you assume that the Joker dies after trying to save Harley Quinn from the Suicide Squad mission,
The explodey thing.
I was kind of looking at Carter like, are Deadshot and Harley Quinn gonna like, are they gonna be a thing? Like,
It was
even
kinda
getting
before
weird
that.
there.
Yeah, it
I
was like right off the bat. Like as
I
soon
was
as they
like-
met, they were just
I
kind
was
of like
I
they were like
don't
best
know.
friends, just
Yeah.
like talking. Like,
Because, he's like, we're going to make a break for it, Dollface. Stay evil. And I'm like,
Yeah.
when did this happen?
Yeah, like I don't. Yeah,
Like,
it was weird. Man.
And then, like, Rick Flag and Deadshot are bros. It's like, there's no, like...
yeah,
Because
They-
it's like...
they're
they all-
bros, and then they're not bros,
And
then
then they're bros. They're, like,
Right.
respectable bros.
then
They're
they're
not, like,
super
antagonistic
bros
Yeah.
again. Like I don't know.
they all like. It was surprising how a group of supervillains got along so well so quickly.
Yeah.
Like it's a bunch of evil dudes, and they're all like, "You're my homie." Like,
Yeah. Who are
immediately.
established as all, like,
Immediately.
self-preserving people.
Right.
Who would, like, there's a scene
it-
where Captain Boomerang knocks out his, like, co-conspirator in a bank robbery because he's selfish. And
Yeah.
then he's just going along with everything.
Yeah, it was like they all are like loners or whatever. They do their own thing, and they're like, "Yeah, I don't do teams." But as soon as they're brought together, they're like, "No, this is fine. I like
Yeah.
this."
I mean, I hate to bring up Guardians of the Galaxy already, but it really wasn't until, like, the last, like, 20 minutes of that movie where they were really gelling of, like, all right, we got this plan to stop the bad guy. Let's do it. We're all a bunch of jackasses in a circle.
Yeah.
Like,
They literally took a song from the movie too.
oh, yeah. Well, all right, the pop songs. Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
Carter leans over to me and goes, We haven't even reached the opening
Yeah.
credits yet, and there have been 3 pop songs.
3 obvious pop songs, and it's never like a funny or a clever pop song. It's always like, what is the all right, we have the scene. If we were to put a pop song in it, what would that be? It's always the first gut reaction they had.
Yeah.
Like, come on, like Symphony for the Devil when Viola Davis comes up, just of course, or like, it's just
yeah.
like, okay, one of the problems I think I realized during like why these characters aren't really gelling is the battle scenes. I mean, the action's fine, it's serviceable, sometimes it's fun, sometimes they get cool shots, but one of the reasons why the Avengers movies work so well, and again, I'm a Marvel fanboy, but one of the reasons why they're able to get so many characters in such a short time is that all of the action scenes, the character of the characters is very much a part of it. Like, their personalities help define the action. Like, a problem with a lot of modern blockbuster movies these days is they want to do these huge epic set pieces, but then it's like, it's just the characters fighting. Like, you could swap any of them around and it wouldn't matter what they're doing.
Yeah.
Like, they never talk when they're fighting, they never exchange comments, they really never do anything other than the basic, like, oh, I have boomerangs, so I am going to throw a boomerang. Or,
Right.
I am a dead shot, I am going to shoot people dead. And that became such a big problem because then it's like, oh, if they were talking during these fights, maybe I could understand the camaraderie. But it's like, no, they were just acting like it's a job.
I understand that, and that's kind of how it's portrayed to them. Like, they don't really have a choice. So I guess I see what you're saying, but I actually thought the action scenes were kind of cool because I don't know. Maybe I don't know how I can explain how it's different from watching a Marvel movie, but everyone's like weapon of choice or main ability was so eclectic. It was kind of fun to watch.
Well, see,
Yeah.
To see like just Harley Quinn going around smashing people with a baseball bat.
Yeah.
Or,
because
like,
it's like, you know, we made
Yeah.
jokes about how it's like, why the hell would they bring a person whose only defining power is baseball bat and gymnastics to this fight? But at the same time, it does pay off when you're like, okay, this is a relatively diverse cast of characters who can all do something, bring something to the game, and that was fun.
Yeah,
Like,
I agree.
Well, speaking of the battle scenes, there were 2 fight scenes that I remember that I had a problem with. One was the elevator scene with Harley Quinn.
See,
where
I don't
she
like
just-
that one.
I didn't like that one because I didn't see a point to it.
No, it did. No,
'Cause,
that you're right.
She appeared in the elevator, and like the only thing that happened was she checked her phone, got a text
and she's
from
been checking her phone the whole
That's
time,
another-
so
yeah,
she
that's
doesn't
a
need to keep it
completely
private.
different
She
thing we have
doesn't.
to talk
She
about.
doesn't need to be in the elevator to see this text message. She doesn't need to be separated from the rest of the
Private, yeah.
group. And then
She's been
just
checking
like,
his phone the whole time.
and then she has a fight scene, which kind of shows like, oh, you know, Harley can handle herself and she can whatever. She's a really good fighter. But we've already seen that.
Yeah, we've
in, like,
established
in a
this.
couple
Again,
different
that's
scenes.
film economy. You already
Yeah.
explained something, and then you feel the need to explain it again.
There was
They-
no point to that scene.
There's a point in the movie where it's like Will Smith is like, tell me what's going on. I found this secret dossier or whatever.
That part
and
of
it's
the
like,
movie was stupid.
and
I was
he's like,
so
oh yeah,
dumb.
my girlfriend's a witch, and
Wait a
also,
minute.
and they literally show the exact
Wait a
same
minute.
scenes. Like, they didn't edit them. They
Wait
just put them back in the
a minute.
movie.
Hold on a second. Will Smith as Deadshot finds from the crashed helicopter the top secret file in the bag of
Amanda Waller.
Amanda Waller.
Amanda Waller.
Waller.
I always say
He
Walker.
throws it out onto the ground and he's like, "You need to tell everyone what's going on right now." And
Does
everyone's
it
standing
matter?
there thinking like, "Oh yeah." And I'm like, "Are we supposed to assume that you guys thought that these were just regular human terrorists while
Yeah.
there's a giant ring of trash
Like, yeah, again,
floating in the sky?
Like, they
this
know-
is not a work
Oh
of a
my
human."
God.
they know something's wrong the
What-
entire time,
this
but at
doesn't
some
make any
point,
sense.
shouldn't they just be like, all right, it's something magical and weird. We're just going to have to deal with it.
Yeah,
Like,
even,
what difference
Weren't they
does it make at
thinking
that
that
point?
when those weird
Yeah.
minion
Gooey
magic
people.
gooey people were coming at them? Oh
Right.
no, those are just regular people. Like
even
what
even
is
before
this?
they show up, they're like, "Oh, it's just terrorists," but they're like, "You wouldn't bring us in for just like terrorists." Like they knew that it wasn't right, and then they see the big lightning
And
thing.
then when they find out, he's like, "Oh yeah, by the way, my girlfriend's a witch." And everyone's like, "Oh, I'm out!" Like
they
all
all just like
walk
freaked out and like, "You didn't think this was weird before?"
It's so
Like
bizarre.
with fighting these zombie
Just the
people.
whole thing.
Yeah, I mean, we'll talk a little bit later about how you could fix like the structure of it, but
Before-
yeah,
Before we get too far away, can we just go back to the fact that Harley Quinn somehow has secured a cell phone
Okay.
How does she even get a
I
cell
mean,
phone?
did she smuggle it in her butt crack? Because they're showing her butt crack the
Like-
entire
No,
movie,
like-
so she
like-
couldn't have hit it there.
Well, I know
Why-
how she got the cell phone. There was that scene with the prison guard, and he like slipped it to her, right?
He
But
did?
it wasn't.
Maybe?
Yeah, there was. No, I remember it. I remember when they were walking them out. They were all in chairs, strapped down. Prison guard just shows up next to Harley, and he's like, "Here's a gift from the Joker. Like, tell him that I treated you well." And then she's like, "Oh no."
Well, that's a
But
testament.
but the thing is, it wasn't secretive at all. They were surrounded by army men, and this prison guard just walks up next to her, literally hands her a phone, and it's like from the Joker.
So I clearly missed that part of the movie.
he
but
was
then it
right
doesn't,
next. He was
but
right
then
next
you're
to the
right.
army
It doesn't
people.
matter.
Yeah,
How
he was
can
like-
that
But
even
you
be a
should-
viable
it needs to be
part of the
clear.
movie?
It
and
needs
she was
to be
strapped
clear.
down in a chair, and she just grabbed the phone and was holding it in her hand, strapped down, like, "Oh, thanks." But like all the army people around are like, "Looks fine to me. It's just her phone, I guess."
Yeah,
Like-
I guess she's had one of those
Yeah,
this whole time.
and they just let him. They let this prison guard walk up and give her this phone, and
It's
they're
so
like,
bizarre.
"Well, I mean, how
I
else
don't-
would she get it? So keep it in the movie."
So
Well, it's just a testament to how bad this film's edited that isn't
Yeah.
automatically clear. It was the same thing when Batman pulls Harley Quinn out of the water. Oh yeah, Batman's in this.
and that's the other thing.
Because it's like,
Where-
wait a minute, when he does CPR, it's like, wait a minute, is he making out with her? Because it's like he doesn't do chest compressions, he doesn't like do that much. Like it's just so
Yeah.
poorly edited that
You're-
you need to actually think about what the scene
It's
is.
so poorly edited that a whole character in Jared Leto literally disappears from the screen.
Yeah.
Well, there's
Yeah.
some
Crashes
reasons
in-
for that, and we'll get to
crashes into the water, and you're like,
Hmm.
well, there's Harley Quinn, and the Joker is not there.
Disappeared.
He was driving the car and somehow is
Yeah.
not.
He manages to swim
incapacitated.
away.
That's
by
2 times
the-
in the movie that
Oh
he
my
just
gosh.
happened to live. And
After something
and
that
yeah.
you
Even
shouldn't
though you never see
reasonably
what
be
happens
able
to him, and he
live
goes
from.
down in a crash.
Right, he goes down in this car over a bridge. You see
Dude,
he's
man.
in the car when they're over the bridge, and then he just disappears.
So weird. Like,
Yeah.
where do we? Okay, do we want to go into the Joker now? Now that we're on this train,
Yeah, let's
Or do we
go
wanna
because I
have something.
because I
that,
do
like,
want to talk about the actors. Because
I
other
wanna-
than Jared
right.
Leto, there's a lot of good actors.
I
in
want to
this.
talk about the biggest plot problem that I have.
Okay.
But do you want to talk about that now, or do you want to talk about the Joker first?
Let's talk about the plot problem first, and then we'll get to the
Okay.
Joker.
So this is
Because at this
okay,
point, we're
so-
just rambling. To
we,
the
we are.
heavens.
This is.
I mean,
bad.
I will say, like, I've talked about how I went to premiere Batman v Superman, and for a week I felt like I'd seen Cthulhu, like I'd seen the Abyss, and I was in such horror. I'm like, guys, it's coming. We're doomed. We're all done. Like I come in with my eyeballs ripped out of the sockets, like I have them in my hand, like nah. This,
So-
I'm just like, now I feel lost. I'm like,
Yeah.
So the majority of the movie for me, I felt lost, and I could accept a fair portion of it because, as Carter mentioned, and we'll get to, there were some decent parts of this movie.
Yeah.
Much of them including individual acting performances.
Right.
The biggest problem I had is that this team was assembled. They were assembled and then called upon to do nothing, but in the end, get. I can't even remember her name.
Amanda Waller.
Amanda Waller out of the
you can
city.
call her Viola
Yeah.
Davis if you want.
How is that their mission? Why did you need a Suicide Squad to do that?
That's the biggest problem.
Yeah.
Where it's
that is
like,
literally the biggest plot problem for me. I was like, they're going on this mission. What are they going to do? They're going to stop the witch right now. No, apparently that was never a part of their original
I
mission.
didn't even
Exactly.
It was
think about that.
only to
like,
get this
they're
lady,
just
Viola
like-
Davis out of the
like,
city.
I know
was like,
they've-
that's not
Wow.
even a viable mission for the Suicide
I
Squad.
didn't even
exactly.
think about
Like
Right?
they have
It's
no
so
contingency
terrible.
plan to stop this witch.
How
They
is it-
have no contingency
They're just
plan.
like, wait, is that the witch over there?
Yeah.
No, 3
We're just
blocks
gonna
around.
contain it.
3
Yeah.
blocks around. You can't go near her. I
Yeah.
was like, isn't that why you brought the Suicide
They're
Squad
just-
out? Nope.
Wow.
Apparently, it's to get her out of
No,
the city.
they're literally just gonna
Literally
let this
doesn't
witch
make any
keep doing her
sense.
thing, which will eventually consume the entire planet.
Yeah.
It's like, what is your plan for that? Do you have another Suicide Squad?
It's
The
so-
Justice League
it's-
hasn't formed yet.
It's
There's no super
so
team.
Bizarre. That
That's
was when it
wild.
got me.
Yeah.
And it got me when they got to the top of that building, and I was like, who are they going to bring out of this building? And it's like, oh, it's just Viola Davis,
Yeah.
working the
Why
headquarters.
did that
I
need
was
to
like,
be secret?
I was like, what?
Right.
What? we got all the way here and almost died because we were just trying to get this lady out of the city. That doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
How
Wow.
is that the main plot?
That's
and then
the
they were
part.
like, oh, now the witch has her, so I guess we should probably go
I
get
guess
the
now
witch.
we'll save
I
the
guess
world.
now we'll like.
I guess we should do
what?
something because she's just kind of in the way.
Yeah.
I just don't. I don't get it.
Yeah, I did not even realize that because like I guess I just kind of glossed over that. But yeah, they just literally went to save her.
They're on this journey for like most of the movie, and the
Yeah.
journey is literally to go back to get this lady out safely that they all hated.
Yeah.
That could have been easily done by human people.
It really feels like this was written in a week and they didn't check their work, which apparently
Yeah, so
might be
bizarre.
truer than they'd like to admit.
Well, that's
So
another thing I had a problem with was there was no lead up to like the final battle. Like it seemed like they were starting the final battle with the enemy, like the first third of the movie. Like first it was
Right.
introduce everybody,
Yeah.
and then we're gonna fight for the rest of this movie. Like there was no like
There's no in between.
there's no nothing.
Like
It's
normally,
just
Yeah.
immediate
normally in
fight.
like a
You're
teen
right.
movie, there's like training,
Yeah.
or it's like they like
or at least
fail.
something
Like-
happens so that
Right.
they
Yeah.
fail
they-
and
or
then
they break
and then they
up.
bond closer together
Yeah.
through the failure or
Yeah.
some sort of thing, something that we can latch onto as
Yeah.
humans that are like, okay, this story is worth following. And we just followed blindly into a story that
Yeah.
ended
Yeah.
up leading us to the top of a
it's
building.
like they
and it was
either
just
needed
like, that's
they
it.
either
Mhm.
needed to make more of the movie just
Oh,
having
man.
us see these characters interact, like maybe even in the prison, or like
Yeah.
less introductions and more just character stuff of like, oh, what makes them tick, or go the opposite route and like make it all about the mission. Like
Right.
they're
Yeah.
either already formed or they're close to forming,
Right.
and like
And maybe I should save. Well, I'll save this for maybe what we could have done differently. But I feel like the backstory, they came in like one example being like when they introduced Harley Quinn for the first time, she was hanging in her cell, and she's like, "Why don't you come on in and play with me?" And he was like, "No, last time that happened, 5 people died." Like, can't we use that scene of 5 people dying, like going in
Yeah.
there for her
why did
as
you
part
not
of the
show
backstory?
that?
Why
Right.
don't we have to? And there are a couple other scenes, and we can get into that later.
The
But
show
they're
Don't
just
Tell
like-
is also really wonky, where it's
Yeah,
like sometimes they tell us
Yeah.
stuff that would be more interesting to see,
Yeah.
and sometimes they show us stuff that would have been you could have just explained.
And we
Yeah.
can talk about that when we come up. We have ideas how we
Yeah.
may have ourselves.
Also,
altered it a little
can we
bit.
just appreciate the villains suck? The Incubus, like the Aztec monster man,
Yeah.
like not well. First, let's just say
I have.
he
something
doesn't
to
look
say about that.
finished.
Everybody's
he doesn't
wagging
look
their finger
finished.
right now.
Like his CGI, he
Literally.
literally looks like he belongs in like The Mummy or an early 2000s, like
Yeah.
when CGI really wasn't there yet.
The main antagonist of this movie is a random passerby that is
Yeah.
accosted by a
Yep.
spirit of a warlock in the subway station,
It's
and he becomes the main antagonist. And
Yeah.
I'm like,
Yeah.
just
this
sort of
doesn't make any
randomly,
sense.
like they don't really touch on like, oh yeah, there's this brother who's even more powerful until it's already happening.
Yeah,
Right.
it's literally just like, by the way, brother who
Yeah.
is at full power.
by the
appeared.
way, you should probably get your strength back by consuming humans. And I was like, well, that's kind of weird. Like, what's
That
is he just
scene
going to
was
eat humans?
horrifying.
And then all of a sudden, the guy just
Yeah, and they're
faints.
just she's like melting
he
with
just
people.
faints, and then all of a sudden, he's just like, "Oh, I'm gonna use my super magic arm to like stab
Tether
3
people.
people, and
Yeah.
then go and attach myself to the subway rail, use the electricity, and whoop, I'm a big giant
Hey, he just,
witch
like,
person
that
now."
was
Like,
such a weird
just like-
scene.
how did
And-
we get here? How does electricity?
Yeah.
It's just like
And
add a little
also-
water and instant.
Also,
witch.
it's like-
what?
Also, it's like, okay, so we formed the Suicide Squad because the one member of the Suicide Squad went rogue and effed everything up. Like,
That's pretty much
people
what it
died. You
was.
had one job, Amanda. People died. A lot of people died. An entire city almost died. The planet almost died.
It was
Because you couldn't contain
right.
that. You're like, we need these superheroes. Oh, apparently we don't. Because
And-
now they've gone rogue.
And right, and I think that I think all of us are most upset about that because if you watch the trailers for this movie, it appeared that the Joker was going to be the main antagonist, which
Yeah.
would have been like, okay, but at least he's an established, like you said, one of the biggest
yeah, he's
antagonists.
iconic. People
Right.
know what his
Most
deal
so
is.
iconic.
before-
And it turns out it was just this one witch who was supposed to be a part of Suicide Squad that was just like, LOL, I'm gonna go rogue and find my brother, and we're gonna rule the world together. It's like,
Yeah,
this
like, that's
didn't
the thing,
seem like it was
nobody-
thought through very
And they
well.
never explain what this machine is supposed to do. It's
Yeah.
not a machine. It's a lightning
not
a
bolt
machine.
with metal.
It's
He's
not
just
a
like,
machine.
I'm gonna build a machine because the humans worship machines now. Okay, well, when you use a magic lightning bolt to take things down, it's no longer a machine.
It was
it's
never
just
a machine.
magic.
She,
It's
her
just
whole
magic.
plan was out of like irony. She was like, you know, it would be funny
Yeah, right.
because they like machines. Let's make a death machine, but it's more like a bolt of lightning with some like car bits here and there. But it's like that's I have a problem with the antagonist because nobody knows who that brother is. Like in most superhero movies, they'll take like a really well-known antagonist, so it's like, oh, that guy, I love that guy.
The Joker.
Or it's like one that's kind of lesser known, but they want to like bring into the universe and be
Right.
like, this is a cool character from
Well,
the
it's like
comics that
Guardians of
most
the-
people don't know. But this is just a random dude. The
Literally
brother,
random
the
dude.
brother of some character that people know. But like nobody knows the brother.
Do
And
people
it's like,
really even know
well, I
the
mean,
character that well?
the thing
Not
is,
even.
right,
it's like-
exactly. It's
Yeah.
all highly suspect.
If it was more the Enchantress, like if she didn't have the brother and it was like her getting her power back, it'd be like okay, because like we kind of know that character. But no, it's like a character we kind of know, but she can't actually do much, so she's gonna get her
Yeah.
She rely
convenient
on
So
her brother.
yeah,
Yeah.
so both of them are playing second fiddle to each other because it's like okay, people don't really know Ronan, and he wasn't like from Guardians, and he wasn't
Yeah.
the best villain, but it's like he was the focus of like the villainry, so we got to know him enough where it's like oh, this guy's kind of cool, he's spooky, I could see us fighting
Yeah,
him.
it's like,
Where it's like no, we keep jumping between these two characters, and then none of them are the villain, and then occasionally the Joker shows up for like 10 seconds
Yeah.
because. You know what? We got to get to the Joker. If I
Yeah.
cringed any harder at Jared Leto trying to be a gangsta, I would have entered a wormhole which I would have never escaped from. I would be doomed to float through space for eternity because of the Joker. Yeah, just no.
and there goes Carter.
Yeah.
It was just like so. I think that we were talking about it was kind of sneaky, but the people that did the trailer did a good job of making us think.
Well,
that
because
the Joker
they're the
was
most
going to
recon-
play a main
him and
role,
Harley Quinn
yeah.
are the two people everyone knows.
right? And then it was like, oh, just kidding. He's really just in Harley Quinn's flashback, and occasionally tries to steal back Harley Quinn when she's working for the Suicide Squad.
Yeah, like you would think from the previews, like, oh, he's such an important character, but he's not. And
Nope,
then actually
he's not.
it reached a certain point in the movie where I was watching it, and when he like appeared in the helicopter things, I was like, I just don't care. Like I don't
Yeah.
care about
His
the
story
I actually-
doesn't tie into anything.
You know what it was? I actually did the same thing when he appeared on the roof, and they're like, like helicopter X927, like
Right.
get a chopper, get us out of here. And then he's like, our bird's been hijacked, and I was like, it better not be. And it turns out it's the Joker, and I'm like,
Yeah.
this isn't even cool.
I thought
like,
it was
he
gonna
just
be
comes
the
in at the most
minions.
inconvenient times.
Right.
That's what I thought too.
I was
the little
like,
weird
okay,
bubbly
that's
minions.
cool because they stole the helicopter.
Yeah.
They're gonna fight them.
No,
but it's
it's the
Joker.
Joker.
And I'm like, can you
wielding
just
wielding
leave?
a giant. What is it? The
Machine- gat gun.
Gatling
Yeah.
Gatling gun
Yeah.
in the back of a helicopter. I was like, where did you come
I was like,
from?
he's just like a
First
Where
of
did
all,
he get the
how are you
helicopter?
still alive?
Yeah.
Where did you get the old timey Gatling gun from?
Yeah.
And where did I don't know. Where did everyone go?
He's literally a nuisance. Like he just
I
appears
know.
and he's like, "See, you thought your plans were going well, but now I changed my mind and I'm gonna steal Harley." And be like, also, they don't need Harley, but they made a huge deal out of it. They're like, "Get that girl!" I'm like, she
Yeah.
literally just has a baseball bat.
And
You're about to
that
fight a
was-
She has a
god.
baseball
I
bat,
think it
and
was
she
a-
has a crazy boyfriend who is inevitably going to come in and mess this up.
right.
Yeah.
But
Why do we need her?
But I feel like it was more of the principle that other people already tried to run away. So she's like, Harley can't run away, otherwise everyone's going to try and run away. And
Yeah.
Viola Davis' character was just like, I don't.
That was
know.
another one. That was another character that's just like, I don't care. You were just annoying. Like when she showed up with her phone at the end, it's like, just go away. Let us look at the cool characters.
Yeah.
But like, oh,
I mean, I
so
liked
frustrating.
Amanda Waller's character,
No, I
but
mean,
it's
like,
like
she did well.
it's all of her. All of this is her fault.
Yeah,
all of it.
It's like she did well as the character, but like she just got annoying because it's like they just won. Like, put your stinking phone away.
yeah,
Like, we're
you don't
just-
have to be a dick about this right now.
Yeah.
Yeah. Right. Like, oh, by the way, 10 years off of your triple life sentence. Congratulations. Like,
Right.
no, they pretty much just saved your rear end
Yeah.
and the entire world and almost died. So, like,
Yeah.
you should probably let Will Smith see his daughter now, okay? Okay.
Yeah, Will
Okay.
Smith earned that. Well, all right. I think we're getting into actors, and yeah, let me just say, this movie is it's a dumpster fire, but it is a dumpster fire that is redeemed by a bunch of really, really, really good actors giving it their all and just going hard in the paint.
And the main reason why I said earlier in the show that I would go back to see it again if someone asked me, mainly because of Will Smith.
Yes.
Will Smith's one-liners and quips in appropriate
This is the
times
most fun he's been in
were
literal years.
hilarious.
He was great.
Great stuff.
Yeah.
I really enjoyed it.
Absolutely, like, because, well, also too, because he had a nice clean arc that
Mhm.
made sense, that's easy to empathize with, and he, like, this is what Will Smith does. He takes a simple, straightforward character and makes them fun and likable, and you want them to win because he's just that charming and charismatic. Also, I don't know, his action scenes were the coolest because he, the little wrist guns,
Yeah.
they made a guy with guns look cool.
Yeah.
Yep.
I agree.
Like,
And it kind of brings up the fact again, as we were talking about, maybe there was too much backstory, but his backstories were really cool.
yeah, he had the
man.
cool
Yeah.
backstories.
He had the cool backstories, but like, and it made you understand who he was, but then. There's a fine line because then it set a precedent like, oh, we have to do this for all the other characters now, and it
Yeah.
just felt like too much.
See,
So
I
where
wanted-
would you draw the line? I was asking
I probably
myself
would have
that this
ditched the
morning.
scene where he's just shooting the guns at the targets, but
Yeah.
I mean, it's a
Yeah.
cool scene, but you don't
But
need
see,
it
I think
because you've
that
already
that
shown
scene
how
was
good a
funny
shot
where
he
he was
is.
like, this isn't loaded with real bullets. He's like,
But
these
that-
are just
yeah,
straight-
see,
he's
that's
like,
the
oh, you must be
frustrating thing.
tripping.
Yeah,
and I was
that
like,
was
Will
funny.
Smith?
Yeah, Will Smith
so
is
fun.
back. This is
He's
fun.
back.
I'm having a good time.
It was
I
good.
wanted more backstory, but not in this movie. I would want a Deadshot movie or like
You know what?
a Harley Quinn and Joker movie
That's gonna happen.
because that would have been
Pretty
great.
evident.
Yeah,
pretty
no.
evident
Probably
gonna
towards the
happen.
ending. It's
I mean,
gonna happen.
Can
I
I
think
bitch
it
about
is.
Jared Leto a little more? It's like, you know what? I know people complained when the tattoo picture came out, where people were in denial about that when they saw he had tattoos. They're like, "Oh, that can't be real. It's photoshopped." Blah, 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 blah. But
Right.
That was
you know
a lot
what?
of
I
tongue
do
in
remember
shit.
that.
I'm not opposed to the idea of Joker being like, again, because Jack Nicholson's "You are my number one guy" Joker was like a gangster. He was a mobster who did mobster things.
Right.
Right.
I'm not opposed to doing
Hashtag
that.
this monster.
Like, it's actually a cool idea to do that, but modernize it where he's like a schmoozy modern like pimpy gangster.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Especially like who like complains about political correctness and like makes terrible misogynist, like there's a lot of stuff you can do with that. There's a lot of like that's a pool of that's an idea. That's a good idea.
Yeah.
Don't pick Jared Leto to do that. Not Jared Leto. He's not a good actor. The fact that he got an Oscar for Dallas Buyers Club makes me furious. Well, for a lot of reasons, a lot of like political reasons, but also because
Right.
it's like he was almost gone. He was almost done acting. This wouldn't have happened.
Yeah.
And instead, like, because he seems to think being quirky and eccentric makes you scary and like villainous, but it's like,
Yeah.
no, you're just being obnoxious. You're just being cringy. You're just.
No, I made that comment last night. Was that like if you took Jared Leto's Joker and compared it to another Joker, like you made them meet in one room, like both characters, like the other Joker would be creeped out, and that's not a good thing.
Yeah.
No, you're right.
They would
because
just
he would
be
just be
annoyed
like-
and uncomfortable.
He's just like you're just weird. And
Yeah.
like what is
It's
your
not
laugh?
scary. It's not
Like, what is that?
intimidating. It's not. It's just obnoxious and weird.
You're just he's like
You're not a
constantly
character.
growling
Yeah.
in the movie and just like breathing weirdly, and I'm like, when did the Joker like puncture his lung? Like, because you can tell it from his growling,
Yeah.
his weird laugh, that
Yeah.
like he needs to take a couple seconds before he's ready to go again.
Yeah, and it's not
Which-
like a character. It's just a series
Oh,
of
man.
quirks.
Yeah,
Like, it just
like it just didn't match the Joker, and like I know it's supposed to be like his own, like he's trying to set himself apart, but like he's setting himself apart from the character of the Joker.
Yeah, not just setting yourself apart from Jack and Hugh, God rest
Mhm.
his soul. You're setting him just not being the character.
Yeah.
Not even like a revised version of the character.
Because it's like a weird combination of like the sociopath and the mobster like put together, but like not. It's not a
because
good
he's
Not
clearly
well.
trying to be
Yes.
like, because he's trying to be like Heath Ledger just a little bit,
Right.
and that doesn't work. And he's also just trying, like like, I'm trying to decide which is worse, him as Lex Luthor or Joker, or Jesse Eisenberg as Lex Luthor,
Yeah.
because they're both the same. Like, we're gonna be quirky.
Yeah.
Ugh,
And
God.
like they shouldn't be. Like they're supposed to be like smart and like collected, but like at the same time they just have like that evil mindset. Like that's the kind
Yeah.
of Joker that I like. Is like he's crazy, obviously, but like he's really controlled about it.
Right,
Like,
he
knows
doesn't show-
exactly
like,
There's
what
a
he's
method
doing.
show
to
it
everything.
Yeah.
outwardly.
Even even Heath Ledger's, who's all like, I'm an agent of chaos, I just do things. It's like, no, you clearly have a vision, and you
Yeah.
clearly have a plan that you're doing.
Yeah,
You're
like, you can
clearly
always
following
tell.
through stuff.
You can always tell
This
the Joker
guy's
has a
just being
plan.
annoying.
Mhm.
Yeah, but Will Smith, love him. He was the best part probably for me.
I
Yeah.
think so too.
Jai Courtney just came out of nowhere to be a good actor. Like, he's funny. He can be funny as Captain Boomerang.
Yeah, he was good. He was a good comedic relief.
He
yeah.
was.
Like, they knew how to use it. Like, that's what's frustrating. There's so many little moments in the script where it's like, okay, David Ayer, you clearly like figured out how to make these characters fun, and you thought of like creative little quirks for all of them.
Right.
But it's like we don't get to enjoy that because most of the movie is just explaining shit or
Yeah.
more backstory or
Well, that's what I mean. Is like
Action.
if we had more backstory on each individual character in separate movies, it would have been great. They don't
So-
need to make a separate movie for each character, but like if
just
you
have
think
them
about,
show up in like a Batman movie.
Yeah, if you
or
think
have them
about
show
the
up in a
Avengers,
Flash movie.
if you think about the Avengers movie, they all had their own movies, or like they appeared in
a
each
movie.
other's movies.
Or
And then it's like they all come together and like this is awesome. I know all
Or
these guys.
just make-
I love them.
Or
I wanna
how
see
about
them.
just cut out the scene where Viola Davis is eating a very strange private dinner with some
Yeah,
random
and just
officials?
waving around top secret
Yeah.
documents.
Right.
Just
and,
show us these
and
characters.
show us the time when Harley Quinn took out 5 guards in her prison cell. And don't show us on a tablet, a Samsung tablet, the video footage of El Diablo torching in half a prison yard to bring us to that scene.
Yeah,
as a
exactly.
flashback.
You had a choice to
Can't
either
we just
cut
do that
almost-
and like make it
yeah.
that the backstory part instead of Viola Davis sitting there
yeah.
Yeah.
like talking with her mouth full about top secret documents
Yeah,
and
that
bringing
would've
out
been
You
good.
either
charts,
you either
like,
slice out almost all of the backstory,
Oh,
or make it
man.
where it's like 60% just us seeing these characters evolve, and then
Right.
them
Yeah.
coming together at the end, where it's like, oh yeah, we can do some good.
Right.
You
that-
can't have it both ways.
Yeah,
I
that would have
agree.
been a good idea because if they took out Amanda Waller and like that whole scene, not the character out of the movie completely, but if they took out that whole like beginning scene of her like this is this person and this is what they do. If they
Right.
took that out and they just did each character's backstory like they were living it in
Right,
the present, and then they did their thing,
exactly.
and then they were caught.
and then everyone gets to prison
Right.
at the same
They
time,
all
and
get
then they all
caught.
meet.
They all
like,
get put
right.
in there, and then it's like, oh, we're gonna take all of you and we're gonna make a team. That's when Amanda Waller comes in. It's like I have an idea.
Right.
That would have been great
Yes.
because it would have been
Thank
it would have been
you.
so good if like they
Yeah.
were all just like backstory, all separately,
Gosh.
different scenes, and like as soon as one's caught,
Yeah,
and move on to the
I
next
agree.
one. That would have been so good.
Yeah, I agree.
Um,
Have them all happening like they were in the present.
Yep.
And then they all end up in the same black site.
Yep.
And then Amanda Waller's like, oh, now
Like,
I
you
got
know what we
something
should
to-
do with
you know
these
what we should
people?
do?
Yeah.
Apparently get me to safety. But we've already talked about that, and that is a
Uh,
problem.
I mean,
so we won't go there again.
It's well, and again, it's so frustrating because there's enough good actors here where I'm like, oh man, because Margot Robbie as Harley Quinn is actually pretty good.
Yes.
I
Yeah,
mean, it's
absolutely.
like
She did all right.
she seems to really get the character. I mean, it's a
Yeah.
shame that the movie just uses her for cheesecake shots and like this
True.
weird
Yeah.
this like weird abusive thing with Joker, which is like, yes, that's the character, but they don't seem to be acknowledging that it's abusive. They're just sort of like, oh, look at them, they're like a cute crazy couple, and I'm like, this is like, I don't want to be social justice Sammy here, but for God's sakes, like,
Yeah.
it's like you can't have it both ways, where you have this empowering female character, but then you also have her like punched in the face repeatedly by
Yeah.
like superiors, and then like also her butt crack is dangling out. 15-year-old me would have loved this movie. 15-year-old me would defend this movie's like quality until the day I died. But modern me is just like, God, this makes me feel really unpleasant.
Yeah.
Like, I get like stereotyping and like I don't know, just general like unpleasantness is a big problem with this movie. But even then, it's like, okay, so El Diablo, he is the stereoist of
Yeah, we haven't
stereotypes.
talked about
I liked him a
Yeah,
lot.
great
like-
I
character.
liked him so much.
Yeah, I mean, yes, he's a stereotype. He's the fiery Latino gangbanger.
Yeah.
But it's like, you know what? I like him. He makes me the
Mhm.
actor. I wish I had his name up right now. He makes me like this character. Where
Yeah.
I'm like, I want to see him be the main guy.
Right.
He was
like-
he's such, there's so many characters in that
Yeah.
are like so cool,
Yeah,
and they did nothing with
Yeah.
it.
Right, and I think
like
that
El
you said
Diablo
it.
is like a cool, understated character where you're like, I feel for this guy.
Yeah, I
I
think
get you.
You said
have
it
a
best.
cool arc.
You said it best last night when there was an arc to his
Yeah,
character.
he is
Yeah.
one of like
He
two
sat
characters.
out all the battles because he was like he clearly had something he didn't want to use his powers. He made that clear, but you didn't know why.
Yeah.
Then in the middle, they were like, "Oh, this is why he accidentally killed his entire family."
Yeah,
Spoiler alert,
he's one
sorry.
of two characters in this movie
Right,
who had
but,
an
like-
arc and
right,
like growth.
He had that arc, and then they're like, "Oh crap! Like that's a big deal. Like now we understand why he doesn't want to do anything." But then Will Smith
Right.
gets him all fired up. He takes people down. And he realizes that he can use his power for good.
That
But-
moment where he's like, so the Enchantress, to try to stop them from beating her, give them all like visions of what they want. Like Margot Robbie sees her like married with the Joker, where
But
they're like
as
normal,
regular,
which I
people.
kind of think is
Yeah.
cool because the movies never like are like, man, what did he look like before that? And that
Yeah,
was
that
kinda
was
cool.
that was really cool.
It was kind of
I like
haunting
that.
and cool. Like Will Smith just hanging out or shoots Batman, so he gets to hang out with his daughter, and El Diablo sees his like family still alive, and all of a sudden, halfway through, he starts sort of looking at the camera where he's like, "No, this isn't real. I gotta own it. I know what I
Yeah,
did.
right.
I gotta kick some ass right now, and now I'm a fiery person."
Yeah.
Like
Right.
that was
The
cool.
only issue I had is that I wish we had kind of been at least led to believe that there was a possibility for El Diablo to literally grow into a giant fire monster.
Yeah, see, that's the
There's
thing.
no right.
They
Like that
didn't-
comes out
that
of
literally
nowhere.
came out
They
of nowhere.
didn't-
That was the only
They
problem.
didn't lead up to that because, like, literally in like the comic books and things, he's the connection between the underworld and like Earth. Like he
Right.
can see like the devil and like demons and all these things. He can see
Right.
into the underworld, and he's like the passageway between that.
Right.
And that was never explained. It was
No.
literally just like he makes fire.
Yeah, it's pretty much. As someone
He's
who's never read the
pyro
comics,
guy.
Yeah.
I didn't know
nobody
that
You
could
wouldn't have
have
known that.
Right.
He's
I-
like he
we wouldn't have known.
makes fire. That's cool. I guess that's useful, but nobody knows that he has this whole spiritual. He's basically like a god, and
He was
that's
speaking
never
the same
explained.
language as the
Yeah.
strange
So are they
witch-
both like Aztecs? What are
witch
they?
things. Like,
Where
yeah,
are they
I don't know.
from?
I don't know, man.
Also,
It-
can we just
it's-
appreciate? All right. Also, like, I feel bad for the person who plays Enchantress because she's actually a very popular actress, and all she gets to do is like flail on like
Oh my
tap.
God.
This is again, the green
So
screen doesn't look
good.
finished. It looks like Green Lantern level of like, okay, we're gonna composite your head on this wobbly wobbly body. She looks like an inflatable arm person gyrating her vajay like around in this crappy outfit.
It was so unnecessary, her motions. Like, it would have been
Oh, man,
just
so
as like
unnecessary.
powerful and whatever if
And, like-
she was just like standing there
Yeah.
all like kind of stoic,
like
and
with
just, like,
actual with some
strong.
sort of position of power.
Yeah,
now
I
that
kind of
she's
like the
got,
concept and the
her
design
heart back.
of like,
it would
yeah.
have made sense. You didn't
Yeah,
need her to
she's
be
just,
all
like,
unstable
strong.
and
But, like, I know
scraggly.
they're trying to do with like the she's a creepy enchantress
Yeah.
witch. So like that's why like when she was the enchantress, like before she got the heart back and she looked like a normal person, she was all like creepy. She looked like the girl from The Ring.
Yeah.
Like she was like creepy, and it's like okay, so like weird movements would work. Now she's just like a normal goddess. Normal goddesses don't do like the Macarena 24/7.
Really?
Like, you
Oh,
don't
God.
need that to like. She doesn't need the creepy factor anymore. She needs like the powerful factor of like
Yeah.
I
It's
am
like,
a goddess.
yeah, I like the idea of like this big, like old school sort of just hovering over everyone villain, but they
Yeah.
just executed it horribly.
Yeah.
It was
And
not. It was not.
also,
done too well.
Like, what archaeologist freaking breaks a vase in a in like an
This-
ancient
Uh,
of all the
Aztec
things,
temple?
it does at first glance. You're like,
Mm.
that was stupid, but she was
But the witch wasn't
tempted
out
by
yet.
the enchantress.
But
I
it's-
know,
She was
I know.
calling her name. It's not like she clearly, as you can see throughout the movie, she has. You thought she had control. You thought that the government had control over when she turned into the enchantress. Apparently not.
yeah.
So like it clearly makes sense that like the enchantress could call out from wherever the little figurine in which she was trapped Like
Right.
I can get down with that. You know what? Like
Fine.
she's like oh like I'm gonna break it because I'm enchanted. Like you know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
but it is kind of funny to see an archaeologist that's going and break the
She
first
goes
thing
in
she
and
sees.
snaps.
Just whoops. But also, why did we need the love story with her and Rick Flag? That was unnecessary and dumb.
Yeah.
I guess
Is
it's
it
just
because
like,
Rick Flag so generic a
Yeah.
character that you need the most generic
I
arc?
I think
guess-
so.
I
I think so
guess,
because
be-
he's literally like an army dude,
He's just
and like his
Soldier
only
McDude dude.
backstory is like
It's-
he's a really good soldier.
Right.
It's
it
like,
only
okay.
it only
He doesn't even look like a soldier. He looks all like methed
It
out, like
only-
strung out.
it
Yeah.
only
He kind of does.
the only thing that made sense in his character story, and it was really the only part of his backstory, is that he was pretty much forced. Like Viola Davis's character forced them to like essentially have a relationship, so that she
that's
had him in his
stupid.
in her
Yeah,
pocket.
so he had like a
Because
reason
right,
to be
so
there.
she could be like, "Do you want your girlfriend / enchantress to die? Well, if you don't, you better work for me." Like
Yeah.
that's pretty much what the point of them having a relationship was,
Yeah.
which is like stupid, but it's literally the only thing we know about Flag. So it's like kind of important because otherwise, you're right. Without it, Flag's just like
But
a weird.
It
like,
would have
just a
been
regular-
it would have been
regular
cool
guy.
instead of having like this like super soldier, not even a super soldier because he's just like a good soldier.
Right.
Instead of him being like the leader of the group, they should have taken like another kind of character, like a superhero, supervillain, like kind of in between character.
Yeah,
that,
not
like, the
necessarily
government-
super powered,
Yeah.
but like enhanced.
So like a government controlled one, like one that like the government like basically has like to do their dirty work, like Katana. Like I don't want her to be the leader, but like she was just like she's working for the government kind of,
Yeah.
but she's also like a super powered person.
Yeah, someone similar
Right.
to Katana
Yeah.
who like just goes along with what the orders are without
Right.
asking questions.
So it'd be like a leadership role, but like an interesting character, and not just like this one soldier dude.
Well,
Like that would have been cool.
Katana's story arc was also
Also,
huge
like,
plot.
come
exactly.
She
Like,
was like
last-
you look over and like 3/4 of the way through the
she's
movie, she's
crying
like
into
crying
her sword,
into her sword, and
and
there's
she's
like
like,
smoke all around it.
Yeah.
He's like, "Oh yeah, by the way, like that's
Her-
the sword that her husband was killed with," and she kind of talks to his soul, and you're like,
wait,
uh,
that's the point
wait,
when I could tell Nick was having
was
none
like-
of this.
I was like, I quit.
Like, you know what, Nick's like, you know,
I'm
Nick,
like-
you're a pretty cheery disposition guy. Like,
I
you
was like,
usually
I-
like things,
I was
you're
like,
usually
I
in a
can't.
positive mood. But, like, there was, like, 1 or 2 times where you look at me like, what? And
I
there's one
just-
time where you're like, am I overthinking this? Should I just be trying to have fun?
Yeah, I
and I'm
did.
like,
I
you
was
shouldn't
like,
have to ask yourself
I was
that,
like,
Nick.
should I just like forget about all this? Should I
Yeah.
just try to enjoy this?
What
And
it
I was
is?
Like, I don't
Like,
but, like-
and then when that happens, you're just like, I see you with your, like, hand in your
I don't-
head, like,
I don't.
I've never seen that from you. And it's actually
don't know.
kind of, I was kind
Yeah.
of concerned. I'm like, is he okay?
I just didn't know because it was so. There were parts of this movie that were good, but there were parts of this movie that literally didn't work as a piece of film. You were
Yeah.
like, I don't know what's happening on screen right
Like,
now.
Yeah, it's like it
Oh,
really
man.
does
It's
feel
really
like they
conflicting.
filmed all of these scenes and then they're like, okay, let's figure out what this movie is after we do all this.
Yeah.
So I wanted to that point. I don't know if you saw. I assume that you saw most of the trailers that were
Yeah.
released. Do you remember the scene in the trailers in the bar where they were asking it what everyone
Yeah,
wanted to drink?
that scene
and
got
the
cut
guy
out.
was
We're
like,
gonna
the guy
get
was
to-
like,
Yeah.
the guy was like, I'll just have water, and Harley Quinn was like, smart. I realized that wasn't in the movie at
I
all.
was
Oh
gonna
god,
mention
just
that.
cut
like
it out.
50%.
I was gonna mention
Yeah,
that.
cut it
50% of what was in the trailers wasn't in the movie.
It's
At
just
least
like,
50%.
that's
Yeah.
bizarre.
We'll
Like,
get to that,
that's-
though. There's
I've
a
never
reason for
witnessed that before. I don't.
Now,
think.
see, I have an idea of like a good idea for this movie. Like going to the thing about like what could we do to fix this. So like as we mentioned, Joker being the main villain, that would
Yes.
have been interesting.
Would have been interesting.
Right?
More
so like
interesting.
a storyline that like might have worked with that. That also incorporated another important character, Batman, that was in 2 scenes and he did nothing but
Also,
arrest-
Flash is in this movie, by
except
the way.
And
Stop
Flash
that
was
shit.
in it too.
Oh, that's
Like,
right.
Yeah,
Well,
see,
Flash
so
caught
like,
Goddamn Captain Boomerang, because he's
yeah,
tradition. He's the one villain who isn't traditionally a Batman villain in this movie. So
yeah, he's a Flash villain. But like the thing is, what could have been cool is like, all right, so the Joker is doing something crazy, right? Like he's doing some sort of big villain plan.
Right.
Like maybe to draw out Harley or whatever, trying to do something. So they're like, all right, let's bring the Suicide Squad together and test it out and see if they can take down the Joker, like a really powerful villain with this
Especially
team of
in the
villains.
especially
right.
talented villain.
Yeah.
Right.
So like what would have been cool is while they're doing that, also let's bring in Batman, trying to hunt down the Suicide Squad because
he doesn't like the idea.
He either doesn't like the idea or he doesn't
Okay.
know that it's a government team.
I can get
so he's
behind
like
that.
trying to take them down, like take down the team.
That would fit really well with the mid-credit scene in which he and Viola Davis's character are pretty much like, you can tell he's about to form the Justice League, because then
Yeah.
he could be like, listen, lady, like, fine, you formed this team, but I
My
didn't know
team's gonna
about it.
kick your ass.
Yeah.
I didn't know about it, and we can't just have people forming teams wherever they want. Let's
Yeah.
form a permanent team that will be at your service all the time, not just a bunch of criminals.
Right.
Justice League.
That would be
There it
amazing
is.
because it was like if it's
Boom.
like you have the Joker, Suicide Squad chasing the Joker, Batman chasing the Suicide Squad, trying to fight them, but like not winning. Like they're
Yeah.
not killing Batman, but they're just like
Right.
beating him like to the point
Yeah.
where he.
I guess the
can't,
problem
like,
is
take them all
the fact that
down.
you have two characters whose attacks are largely based on guns and blunt, like excessive
Yeah,
blunt
you would
force.
need you
You
need,
need something like slightly enhanced person. But Batman's pretty much bulletproof in Batman v Superman.
Yeah.
He gets shot point blank in the back of the head and he doesn't even flinch.
Yeah, so
Because
it's
his
like
armor is, I guess his like head is bulletproof.
yeah, so if you have him like trying to fight the Suicide Squad but not like winning, then you would have like a scene where he's like, you know what, I can't do this on my own anymore.
Yeah, it
I
further
need
improves
a team.
because at the end of end of Batman v Superman, he's like, we need to get a team together because something big's coming.
Yeah.
And that further cements it's like I can't even stop regular old villains by myself.
Yeah, so
anymore.
he's
Right.
like, I need help, and then he'd be like, the Flash, who was in the movie, and then we can have that after credit scene where it's like, oh,
Yeah.
also Aquaman and people like that.
Right.
Like, that would have been cool.
What about this? What about if we talked about the backstory being like all the things that they talked about being
Right.
happening in the present, and then they all meet together? And what if they had like a couple more scenes in the prison, like getting to know each other, like they build a bond?
Yeah.
And then what if the main portion of the antagonist is that the Joker, like what the kind of the side antagonist plot was? What if his main thing is like, they took Harley Quinn from me, I have to go get her back? But what if like, I don't know, what if like the rest of the people were like we can't let the Joker take a member of
because
our
this is
team
very
away?
clearly an abusive
Yeah.
relationship
Right.
that
Like,
we need
what
to
if
step
what
in
if
on.
it ends up being like that, and then they're like they come in and Viola Davis's character comes in and is like, we need the Suicide Squad, and they're like, yeah, we're down to do it because Harley Quinn was like a part of our
yeah.
gang,
Our, like, prison
and then
gang.
I got taken away, and they're like, good, you can get her back, and you can take down the Joker at the
Yeah.
same time, and then Batman is like, oh crap, what do we do? There are villains on the streets. We got to break this out,
Yeah.
vigilante
Yeah.
justice style. There it is.
That would have been
Yeah.
awesome. I didn't mention
Gosh.
that, but yeah, I thought about that. It's like, what if Harley was a part of the team, but then Harley's like, oh, look, the Joker, and like manages to escape.
Right.
Like the helicopter scene, but like
Kinda.
actually escapes, and like they live.
Right.
And then the Suicide Squad is like, we got to get her back. And then Batman's like, oh, Joker and Harley, I got to take them down. What? A team of supervillains? What do I do now?
Plus, that would have
Would've
solved the
been cool.
problem where it's like there's no like mid second third act thing where it's like, oh no, adversity, but we're bonding better and now we're ready to fight.
Yeah.
Like that
Yeah.
would have solved that problem.
Yeah.
I guess playing devil's advocate where like in a scenario where Warner Brothers is like, you have to use the Enchantress as the main villain. One, cut out Incubus. Incubus is stupid. We don't need him.
Yeah.
So have Enchantress. All right, so the army thing is kind of cool. Like, it's like, okay, she's building up this army, and so the government's like, so have the Suicide Squad come in, because it's like, okay, they can fight the army because they have bullets.
Right.
So the idea is that they're like, all right, we're bringing in the Suicide Squad to contain it and try to get that heart back. Because if we get the heart back, we can sort of force her in line.
Right.
Make that the crux of the plot, where it's like, all right, they have an army, this is our army. Because the whole, like, because they discuss where it's like, they discuss like, oh yeah, because every government's trying to get their metahumans. This will be our team of metahumans, and we'll like send a message to the world.
Mm-hmm.
Either that, or yeah, get a more terroristic villain who's like, you know, doesn't have like, you know, who isn't theoretically invincible. But like in a scenario where you have the Enchantress, it's like, okay, she's building up her own army because she keeps talking like, oh, this is the breaking point. This is like all these metahumans are coming.
Right.
Have her possessing metahumans.
What
Like,
if-
get a bunch of D-list superheroes
Like
and have it.
Slipknot.
Yeah, make
Oh, wait.
If she possessed Slipknot.
What
Yeah.
if this?
like get her like get Firefly, get people like that. And
Maybe
have
we're
her
running
making
out of
her
time,
army.
and as you know, I'm not big with the DC universe. So
I'm
maybe
all
I don't
for
know how
like
it works.
I can talk
What
for
about
another hour.
this?
Yeah, keep
What
going.
about if we're incorporating, if we want the Joker to be the main villain,
Right.
and we want to keep the Enchantress in? What if somehow Joker obtains the heart to the enchantress and is trying to sell it to the highest bidder.
That would
Like
have been cool.
anyone
Yes,
that wants
and then
it,
he loses
and then
it.
and then like and so then like the Joker's trying to convince Harley Quinn like you need to come with me, and then the Suicide Squad falls and is like, no, Harley, you're part of our team, and then the Batman still comes to stop Joker.
Yep.
That's you incorporate everything.
Yeah.
What about that?
That's
And
a
then
cool
for the third
movie.
act, it's like he loses. Enchantress steals the heart back, and then it's like all hope is lost. We fucked up, but
Yeah.
sorry.
Okay,
But
what?
like, hey, you know what? We almost did it. We're the bad guys, and we got to own it. And then you save the day.
Right.
That gets you the acts. That gets you a first, second,
Someone
and
get
a
Warner
third
Brothers
act.
on the phone. We
Yeah,
got an
that
idea.
would've been
Yeah, like we are amateur filmmakers, and we're already making a more structured, sensible, like, because this isn't like this isn't just like a lot of stuff got left on the cutting room floor. This is basic cinematic structure stuff that's wrong with this film.
Yeah.
This is fundamental pillars
Oh,
that are
man.
broken of this film.
Yeah.
But here's another idea I have is like, so you know how Marvel movies are supposed to be like kind of more on the lighthearted end, but also like great action scenes and whatever. And then DC is supposed to be like the dark kind of universe.
Pretty
Like
realistic.
that's what they're supposed.
And then they
that's
just
what they
throw
try
this.
to do.
Yeah,
Right. So what if in this movie, because they literally Slipknot's character was brought in so that somebody died. Like
Pretty
that,
much, yeah.
That was his character. He's like
They
we-
literally
they
didn't
needed
even-
a character
I-
who
I
would
honestly
establish that
had
they're
to
not
ask
messing around.
Carter, being unfamiliar with the DC universe.
Yeah.
They didn't introduce him. They were like, "This is just." They literally didn't even
Yeah.
say it was Slipknot, did they?
No,
Or did
I
I
think
miss
they
it?
reference
I think
him
they
once.
might have said
Slipknot.
that.
And
he
I was
can
like-
climb anything.
And I was
Yeah.
like, Carter, who is that? Like, I literally
Yeah.
didn't know who it was. That's how poor
And I go, he's
the
gonna die.
introduction was. And
Well, see,
Carter called it
yeah.
right away.
He-
Carter's like, he's gonna
They
I didn't even need to
literally-
see spoilers to know that's gonna happen.
Yeah,
They had to kill one of
They
them.
literally brought him in just so they had a character who could die because they didn't want to kill any of the other ones. So they're like, let's bring in Slipknot so that we can say we killed a villain on the Suicide Squad.
Yeah.
Like other than other characters. But,
Maybe
like,
Diablo. Well,
maybe
no, he'll
Diablo,
come back.
but like
He's
he's
too
got to
popular.
come back.
Yeah,
Like,
because
he
people
has
like
to.
him.
Yeah. So it's like, what if instead they did this, where it's like they didn't bring in Slipknot at all, you know, unfortunately, because he's such a great character. But like, if they didn't bring in Slipknot at all, and that scene where Harley is on the helicopter, on the rope and everything, what if Deadshot actually shot her, but didn't like fatally wound her, like aimed for a spot where he knows that she could take a bullet and live, but it would look like, you know, he killed her.
Yeah. Okay.
So then, for the rest of the movie, it seems like Harley died, like Deadshot killed her.
Right.
But then, like either
Then
after
she
the
decides
credits
to
or
join.
like another movie, it's like, oh wait, she's not actually dead. Bring Harley back in, and it's like,
Or-
yes, character.
Or
people
even
like.
like at the third act, it's like she's with the Joker, but then she's like, "No, I'm going to go help my team." F
Yeah,
you.
if she came
She doesn't-
back at the
'cause
end.
They start to establish this arc of like she's gonna stand up to her abuser and like be
Yeah.
independent, but it never happens
No.
because he
Not at
never
all.
shows up in the third act. And I mean, I want to keep going with this like what would we do differently thing for like a couple more minutes, but then
Right.
we'll talk about like what they cut out of the movie.
Sure.
But yeah, that would have been an arc for her. It's like because she's a fun character, but she doesn't like change or grow or anything.
Yeah.
So then you have your three characters, Diablo, Deadshot, and Harley Quinn, who all grow and develop. That's your base of the movie.
Right.
And then you have like Killer Croc as like the muscle.
I
you
love Killer
have
Croc.
he's like
He was
they
so-
needed
he
more
was
for
so
him.
underrated. Like
Yeah.
that line when they're like, any other requests? And he's like, BET. Like, that's hilarious.
Yeah.
That he requested BET as his, like, one
That's
thing.
As
It
like
is
he wants a specific television
We
channel.
really
Right, it's
haven't
so
talked
funny.
about Killer Croc very much.
Well, because he's
And-
not in the movie.
Right, and he
he's,
doesn't
like,
say a lot.
hardly there, but he's such a cool
He's
character.
there. He's there. I can equate him on some levels, but not fully, to Groot in Guardians of the Galaxy.
He should have
Yeah.
been the
Groot-
Groot of this
He
movie.
should
The
have
muscle
He
who's
should have
fun.
been the Groot, but he wasn't there because
they
he
didn't
had those
write
quippy
anything for him.
one-liners, but he
Yeah.
he didn't do it. He didn't.
But he's
I
the
know
mus-
he
he's
helped
also the
set
muscle,
that
though.
charge at
He
the
had,
end,
like, three
but
lines.
he didn't have enough of a role. Like
Yeah.
Groot was like, "We are Groot" at the end of Guardians of
Yeah.
the Galaxy, and you knew
Yeah.
he was going to save everyone and sacrifice
Yeah.
himself. And
And that turned him from a joke character to like
right.
the heart of the
And
movie.
the Killer Croc helped set the charge that eventually took down the
Incubu.
Incubu, whatever.
Even though it
his
was
name
the
was.
random soldier
though
that killed
this-
himself.
Yeah, even though
Yeah,
Calum and I were
who
talking about-
sacrifices
What about-
himself.
He literally
That guy,
kills
did that guy literally go down there knowing that he was going to have to
Yeah,
sacrifice
because
himself?
there's only
the
2
charge was
seconds.
only one
Did
or
they
2
not
seconds.
tell him there was only 2 seconds on that charge?
like
they were
what?
probably like, "Oh,
Yeah.
you'll have a whole 60 seconds to get away," and then he's just like,
Like if Killer
Asshole.
like
He just presses. He doesn't even
if
hesitate.
Killer Croc
Yeah,
like,
he's just like, well, I
to
guess.
go off his track for a second.
Yeah.
If Killer Croc is like a metahuman, couldn't he have technically surved
Probably,
that blast?
yeah.
That's
He's
what I
slightly
thought-
skinned.
Why does he go
Yeah.
down by himself and
That's
just
what I
set
thought
that
was
off?
going to happen. He's going to be
Right.
like, "Let me."
He was
do
like, he's
it."
like, you
'Cause-
guys are just. He's like, I live underground. Y'all are
Yeah.
just visitors or whatever. And I was like, oh,
Right.
so he's gonna go and do it himself.
And
Nope,
that's
there's
not
still
Nick
3
being
divers
racist.
down there.
That's actually how he talks.
No,
Yeah.
like that's he's got the.
He
the
literally had
accent.
like 3 lines in the movie, and he could have been so
and
great
they were all hilarious.
because he's such an interesting character. He's literally
Because he's just a regular
crocodile
dude
man.
that's also a crocodile.
Yeah, he's like part crocodile. Like he eats people. He's unreasonably strong and like nearly bulletproof skin. But he's literally just a big guy in a hoodie that every once in a while says something, and he
Yeah.
can swim.
Right.
That was his big part, is he could swim in the sewer.
And then he didn't even do it. He didn't even end up doing it. They
He didn't even set the
sacrificed a soldier guy.
But yeah, I mean that would be my big thing. Like one, you got like, all right, make like a larger chunk of the movie, like introducing instead of flashbacks, make it all chronological.
Yeah.
Like we are seeing these characters, then they all come together, and then Amanda Waller's like, well, I finally have them all. I have enough to form this team, and then she finally has her chance to use it when Joker like steals the heart, because I do like that idea. Then the heart gets stolen at like nearing the 3rd act, and it's revealed that she wants to build up an army. Maybe make it metahumans, because they're going for this commentary. Because I think the most underrated of the Marvel movies is probably Iron Man 3, because it has such an interesting twist where it's like, oh yeah, the Mandarin is actually just a random guy, because the main villain realizes like no one's afraid of a terrorist anymore, because we live in a world with gods and superhumans. I need to make up like a supervillain. That will get everyone to bow to my knees. That's how I like trick everyone into letting me have all this power.
Mhm.
And it's almost like they tried to have a similar commentary where it's like, oh, superhumans are changing the game. All these
Right.
metahumans. And even Incubus is realizing that, where it's like, all right, she wants people to worship her again. She needs to build an army of superhumans.
Yeah.
Like, so get a bunch of D-list, and that's like the final act of like you're fighting all of these D-list heroes. Plus, that's fun for the fans because you're like, it's Firefly, I know him, or like,
Yeah.
oh, it's Electrocutioner, he's funny,
Mhm.
like, and then have Harley Quinn come at the end to help save the day, and then
Yep.
like it's like, all right, they're still in prison. Batman's forming his own team. Like that's a coherent. Like I think that would be a fun story.
It would.
You get you get all the cool stuff at the beginning.
Yeah.
Because let's appreciate that it's like the first and like second. By the time we get to all the actual stuff in the movie where they're like on the mission, that and the first act have nothing in common. All the colors gone, all the neon stuff's gone. It's
Yeah.
like those were 2 different movies, which leads us into what happened to this movie. Okay,
Yes, please tell us.
so Hollywood Reporter, like people were talking about this stuff beforehand, the behind the scenes stuff, but Hollywood Reporter released a big expose that really does like corroborate a lot of stuff people were already saying. Devin Faraci was one of the big guys to like come out of the woodwork with this early, but this confirms it. So they announced this movie back as a part of this 10-film slate DC wanted to start with. Batman v Superman was going to be the catalyst for all of their movies. And they were really keen on getting it to come out right at this date. They're like, we've set the date, we're not moving it. We don't want people to think we're weak. We're going to be like
Suicide
Marvel.
Squad.
Yes, Suicide
Yeah.
Squad.
All right.
It's going to be like the palate cleanser. We're going to be strong. So they hired David Ayer, who's famous for doing Fury, which is this gritty, like, intense World War II movie about tanks, of, like, essentially the Allied forces just punching their way into Berlin at
Okay.
the end of the war when the war is effectively over. It's
Right.
pretty cool. He also did End of Watch, which is, like, a gritty, dirty movie about cops, like, in sort of
Yeah.
the slums.
Yeah. Okay.
Back
saw
in that, it came, and I know people are like, whoa. Keep in mind, it came out in that sweet spot, like, post-90s LA and pre, like, 2014 Ferguson, where watching cops go around with shotguns fighting in the inner city was cool
Yeah.
and not,
Yeah,
like, kind of,
yeah.
like, troubling.
Yeah.
So they get him, apparently, to make his deadline, he was given 6 weeks to write this script. Keep in mind, Marvel has been working on the script just for Thor Ragnarok for almost like a year and a half now. And they made him write this in 6 weeks.
Yeah.
Star Wars: The Force Awakens, like they threw out they dumped a lot of their first draft and started rewriting. They expected this guy to write this in like less than 2 months, and apparently from there they sort of just went with it, writing it on the fly. Keep in mind, also the problem is like this director's never done like big budget like effects driven stuff,
Yeah.
so he's like I guess in their heads, this guy would sort of just be a yes man and just film what they wanted him to.
Right.
Which, I mean, he's a director with a vision. He has a very clear set of kind of films he makes,
Right.
and he should be allowed to make that film.
Okay.
And every now and then you can see that vision of, like, I want to do this paramilitary movie with all of, like, these low-level superhumans who, like, aren't the strongest, but they use guns and stuff.
Yeah.
And you could imagine, like, a cool, gritty, dirty, like, paramilitary movie through that with this Suicide Squad. And apparently, all right, so right away as they were filming,
And it just got zanier.
yeah, and then
Yeah.
things just went off the rails because they're starting to sweat it when they're seeing what he's making, and when Batman v Superman comes out and it sort of like underperforms and people hate it, they're like, "Oh no, it's not fun. It's the same thing. It's dark and dirty and gritty. Oh god." Then the trailers start coming out. The reaction to the first trailer is kind of like meh. Then they do the one with Bohemian Rhapsody that's all colorful and zany, and they're like, this movie's nothing like that. So apparently, what they end up doing is they bring in multiple editors. Even though only one editor was officially credited on this movie, they had at least 5 or 6 editors on this movie working. Like, where it got to the point where they had 2 different versions. They brought in the trailer company to do an edit of the film. They're like, here's the footage, figure out how to make this like what you made the trailer. How did you do that? Make that the actual movie.
That's insane.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Trailer company.
Like,
coming
I
in
feel like
and
that should be a
editing
bigger
movies.
deal than people are, like, I imagine
Yeah.
it's happened before, but this feels somewhat unprecedented. So it got to the point where they had 2 different versions of this movie at the same time. They were like, Ayer, you can keep working on your version, sort of somber, military movie, and we're gonna do this, like, crazy zany version with, like, all these pop songs and, like, graphics and, like, all this jazzed up stuff. And they started screening these completely polar opposite versions at the same time, and they were like, all right, here's what we're gonna do. Also, can I call bullcrap? DC originally sold itself as we're going to be the director studio. Marvel does all their stuff like they're like producer driven, where it's like they just get people to do what they want. We're going to be auteurs. No, you're not. Shut the hell up.
Call
So
them out.
essentially, what it came down to is they tested the versions, figured out the scenes that people liked, and like, all right, we're going to smash these 2 versions together into a
That's
final edit.
really dangerous.
And it's
And-
kind of what it looked like.
It is.
Exactly.
It's what it looked
Kinda
like.
It's
what it
like the
looked like.
opening, you can tell it was all the stuff, and then they did reshoots to try to patch it together, which clearly didn't work because nothing
No.
feels together.
No.
Like, you can tell it's like, okay, all the stuff with the color, that was reshoots and like,
Yeah.
studio meddling, and it's just incredible.
Yeah.
And it sounds, and take on top of that, apparently this director was kind of nuts, where he's like, he would like essentially start fights with his cast to try to get them in the mood, and like Jared Leto acting like a creep on set all the time, and all of the like bringing in therapists to like try and drive them crazy, like. And apparently Warner Brothers kind of screwing him over, because when he signed on to make this, it was the understanding that they would release his next project too. He had to go to Netflix for that. It sounds like he's being a good sport about this. This isn't like Josh Trank, where he like lost his mind and started sabotaging everything.
Mhm.
He's being like a good sport. He's like, hey, I made this movie. I hope you like it. It's my version of the movie. There's no director's cut. And what's frustrating is, like, with Fan 4 Stick, there's enough of Josh Trank's original vision where I'm like, oh, I would have hated this. Like, it still would have sucked. It just would have been slightly more coherent. This version, I'm like, I could see enough of a gritty, movie with just a little bit of quips and a little bit of camaraderie that would have been fine. It would have been good.
Right.
It would have been at least coherent.
Yeah, there were plenty of scenes where it was just like, how did we get there?
Yeah.
You
Yeah,
know, it's
that
like,
was
or
most
like,
of the-
why
most of
was
the
that?
movie is
Why
how
was
did we
that
get here?
there?
Because
You
when
know?
we get to like this, like the parts where they're in the city, where it's like you can tell this is just like what they originally filmed. There's enough
Yeah.
of that where I'm like, you know what? If they had given more time to write this and like polished it, and maybe added just a pinch more color as opposed to like the neon explosion we got
Yeah.
earlier, it would have been a decent film. Like, it would have been a nice, like, all right, they're finding a vision for this Warner Brothers project, and apparently this movie now has to make between around $800 million just to break even from all of like the reshoots and like the pop songs they bought.
man.
And from opening weekend, yes, it had a record-breaking weekend for August, but from Friday and Saturday, it had a 40% drop in revenue. That's
Yeah.
the record.
Yeah.
So I think this thing might really start to tank. It's surreal just seeing all of this anarchy behind the scenes of a studio that just has no idea. Like, Marvel obviously understands what it wants. It has this vision of like, we want to do a faithful adaptation of these Silver Age characters, and it'll be colorful and fun and quippy. Like, all of the films, even the more outlandish ones, feel like they fit in this universe.
Yeah.
At this point, Warner Brothers doesn't know what they want. All they know is what they don't want. They don't want to be like Marvel. Well, that's not true. It's like now they're trying to be more like Marvel, where it's like, oh, we have quips and color and a giant blue portal in the sky.
Yeah, because they see it works.
Yeah.
And they're like,
Because they realize we don't have our
well,
own vision, so let's start stealing
yeah,
theirs.
they're like, apparently people don't like the realistic darkness, so like let's
Yeah.
do.
They have like Doom Portal.exe, so we'll just put that in our movie. Like, they don't know what they want, because it's like, all right, Man of Steel, so people don't like Superman Returns because it's too lighthearted and not action enough, so let's make Man of Steel all punching. People don't like that, so let's make this new Batman v Superman all about, oh, everyone hates Superman now. Oh, people don't like that, it's too dark, so let's try to make this quirky and colorful even when it's not happening. And now, like, I'm genuinely, like, I think now they're trying to sell Wonder Woman, like, everything after this, they're considering, like, a soft reboot. Like, they've sort of pushed a lot of the studio heads responsible for this out in
I
favor
was
of
just
Jeff
gonna say,
Johns.
you said they released a 10-movie slate. Is
Yeah.
another Suicide Squad in that slate?
I
or
don't
no?
think so.
Okay.
Some of them are untitled, but it might be. But yeah, so now they've brought in Jeff Johns, who is supposed to supervise all these and be like, let's make it more colorful and comic accurate. And I'm hoping that starts with Wonder Woman, because it would really suck if Wonder Woman suffered for this.
It doesn't look good, in my opinion.
I've
From
read
the
it.
trailers, it doesn't look like.
It doesn't look like Wonder Woman.
If I
per
didn't,
se,
if I didn't
but
know it was a Wonder Woman movie, I wouldn't be able to tell.
it looks
that
like a
was
good
Wonder
movie in
Woman
its own right, even if the Wonder Woman part sort of gets left out.
It it doesn't look like a superhero movie, and like that's not always a bad thing, but like it doesn't look like this is like Wonder Woman coming. It's like it's like a fan fiction almost of like World War II and Wonder Woman. What if they happen together? You know, like,
I mean,
it just doesn't look
fighting
like,
Nazis was part of Wonder Woman's origin, but it's also
I know,
it was
but it's
still
just like-
campy and colorful. It wasn't
Yeah.
like dark and gritty.
But it's just
which-
strange to see her like Batman v Superman, and then it's like also World War II.
Yeah.
Like, what is she doing?
I just
what is she
appreciate
doing
it-
post Batman and Superman.
I just appreciate that she's in World War One because it means mathematically we can't have Jared Leto come back
True.
unless he doesn't age. But anyway, and then you start to get into like all of the deleted scenes, and this is a rumored list. It's not all of these are confirmed, but you can tell a lot of them existed from the trailers. Apparently, the movie originally opened with the Enchantress being opened. Like, originally it really was, we had all of these introductions for the characters, then Amanda Waller's like, alright, here's what their names are and what they do. That could have worked. There was apparently a lot more stuff with El Diablo. Apparently, Captain Boomerang had a lot more where it establishes that he's a racist, which, thank God they cut that out, because that's the last thing we need. And also, apparently there was a lot of scenes that were establishing that Slipknot was a serial rapist, so we wouldn't feel bad that he got his head blown off. And also, just thank God they didn't put that in. Thank God. Because that's the last thing a movie like this needs.
So
Yeah.
apparently some of the things they cut were very useful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Most things not, but some things help.
Like, they're
it
not
out.
exactly good, but it like adds more
Yeah.
to the characters, kind of.
Yeah.
And it makes them more evil. You know?
Yeah,
like, it
but
makes
it's
them
like,
more
I don't know.
supervillains.
In a movie where you just keep showing Margot Robbie's butt crack, let's not have more, like, negative stuff.
True. Yeah, but it's just like it would have been
yeah.
it would have been more.
They should have found something for him, not
Yeah.
raping women, ideally.
Yeah, just like
Um,
something to make them like these actually are supervillains. They aren't
Yeah.
just like chill dudes that happen to be in
Steal
prison.
stuff
Right.
occasionally.
Like they're literally like mass
Yeah.
murderers.
Yeah,
you know?
there was apparently a lot more backstory for Killer Croc, just of how he became more crocodile-y, and like, they apparently had a scene where he fought Batman, and they sort of made his arc like he sees himself as beautiful, he builds sculptures, like that would have been all cool stuff.
That would have been cool because they mentioned that in that
Yeah.
one in the bar scene. He's like, "I'm beautiful." And it's like, you know what, you are.
Yeah, that was funny. That was a
Like,
good line.
He could
Yeah,
have done so much more.
He
with
had
it.
the Groot potential.
He did.
And
I think so.
yeah,
Yeah.
apparently they had a lot more. The Joker stuff is the biggest thing. Like, originally, apparently, it was better establishes that this is an abusive relationship, that Harley's sort of fighting it, but he sort of still likes her. And when he apparently, the biggest thing is, he comes back at the end, like the third act when they're about to go stop Enchantress. Joker comes in, half his face is like burned. And he's like, come on, Harley, we can get out of here. And she's like, no, I'm staying with this team. And then he just leaves. Like that bit where he throws the grenade and is like, bye-bye. And I feel like they burnt his face so they could have an excuse to recast him later. Like, oh, I have
As
face
Two-Face?
surgery.
Yeah.
Or he also becomes Two-Face.
Yeah, that would have been cool.
That was the
that,
biggest
that
thing.
should have happened. Is like a fight between the Joker and Harley. That definitely should have happened. Some sort of tension, because there was hardly any tension in that movie. Like
Yeah.
for a dark movie of supervillains, there was not a lot of tension like between the characters.
Yeah, I got you.
It's like especially between the team members, there was no tension. They all loved each other,
Right.
and it was just like happy times.
Yeah.
You know, like there should have been some kind of like there should have been like some people butting heads. or
Yeah, there was
something,
enough butting.
You know,
Because
even in
the-
the Avengers and teams
the
like
conflicts
that, they,
and
like,
relationships felt unnatural because there was no connective tissue.
fought.
Right.
Yeah, there was nothing, like they didn't fight at all, and that
I mean,
that was a problem.
I just wanted to bring up all the behind the scenes stuff because it really is a testament to like what happens when studios overthink things. Or
Yeah, like there are things in there that they definitely should have kept.
yeah, there's a lot of good stuff in there, but
Mm.
it's very clear that the studio had no idea what they wanted this film to be, and instead of taking a deep breath, stepping back, and letting the creative guys figure out the good parts, they just started throwing everything at a wall. And it's disappointing because, like I said, I don't like this thing has a 20 something on Rotten Tomatoes, and I feel like that's more from disappointment to actually it being that bad.
Yeah, I think
Because
so.
like Batman v Superman made me furious. This movie makes me sad because I'm like, there's enough of a film here that I could have loved this. That it would be my Tomorrowland where I could defend, where I would defend this movie as like, hey, you know what? There's enough in here that it's worth seeing.
Right.
But when you find out all the studio meddling stuff, you're just like, I don't feel like I can defend this just because it's so, like, because you can tell they were like, let's make this Hot Topic the movie, and
Right.
like all of the edge. Then you sort of find out all of the edge and like color was like artificial. Like
Mhm.
it was a studio trying to be hip, and that disappoints me.
Yeah.
Any concluding thoughts? Because we are it's a special long episode,
I was
which
just
I
gonna
like.
say we've been going for a while.
Yeah,
I have
Um,
one comment to make about going back to the music. Is like the problem I have with the music is not the music itself. Like the music was cool, and in some like it was like decent music.
why was it
that I
never
could,
during
like,
action
listen to.
scenes though?
That's true. That's one thing. Is like I liked the songs themselves, but and like in some scenes they kind of worked. Like the scene with Deadshot shooting up all those targets. Like that song was nice and whatever. It like kind of fit. But the thing was like the music in movies, you're not supposed to notice it until like afterwards.
Right.
Right. You're not supposed to like
Right.
hear
It's
it.
a distraction. It
But
becomes.
in this movie, it took me out of the movie. Like
Yeah,
there were
it
plenty
was a
of There
distraction.
were plenty of times where I just started like nodding my head, like, "Oh, I like."
Because
this
we literally
song."
go from one pop song into another, and there's
Yeah.
no rhyme or reason.
Right.
There's no flow.
Yeah, I started focusing so much on the music, like, "Oh man, this song is good," that I wasn't even paying attention to the movie. Like you're not supposed to notice
Yeah.
the song that's going on in the background, but it was so prominent. Like it just like took you out of the movie, and that's what I had. That's why I didn't like the music. It's not the songs themselves because I like
Yeah.
pop music for the most part, and like it could have worked pretty well in the movie because they're trying to make it slightly lighter but also dark. So like I guess kind of Eminem raps work from time to time, but like
Yeah.
I don't know, it took me out of it. You know,
Yeah, I think the interesting part is I think that at least for me, I was thinking about it this morning, and I was like, you know what, like as long as we ranted about all the problems this movie had,
Yeah.
I would
drunkenly.
I would
and
I would go see it again, which I was like, you know what, maybe that's a good thing, but I was like, well, maybe it's a bad thing. Like maybe like our studio's just gonna make like movies that look fun in the trailers, and we talked about how it was really deceiving.
Yep.
And how people went to go see it, and then it was completely different. Is this going to become a thing? Like, I hope this doesn't become a thing that happens regularly. But if they make enough money on this movie,
Yeah, exactly. That's what's
the consumers
frustrating.
and the could be in trouble.
yeah.
I think that we could see this happen.
Like, I don't mind bad movies. I don't like being misled.
Right.
The trailers
Right.
for this movie were misleading, and It's disappointing because this is a masterclass in figure out the movie you want to make before you make it.
Yeah.
Like some directors, some studios and directors are very good at like, all right, we'll sort of figure out what the tone and style of this movie is in editing. These guys clearly are not that.
Yeah.
It's like somewhere in here there was a really fun, sort of pulpy, gritty, but fun military, sort of paramilitary supervillain movie that ended up getting bogged down in all of this, like, all of these edits and cuts and just blindly incoherent turn, like whatever, like with a little, even the slightest bit of flow and progression, this could have been a fun movie.
Yep.
A solid,
Right.
good movie.
It wouldn't have
Instead,
been. It wouldn't have
it's-
been great, but if it had flowed, it would have been.
You would have
like,
enjoyed it.
Okay, I can understand maybe a little more of what's happening.
I can enjoy
Right.
the stuff that's
Right.
good because
As
I'm not
opposed-
constantly being distracted.
As opposed to me
Yeah.
having to stop and ask you, should I just forget about all these things that are going wrong? and just
Exactly,
try
because
to
you
enjoy
shouldn't
it?
have
Yeah.
to think that
Right.
way. Callum, I'd like to thank you for coming on. This was
Yeah,
a fun
thanks, man. This is
episode.
good.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
we
so
were
Good to
gonna
have a
to
third
get you on.
voice.
Also, good to have Nick on.
Yeah,
nice
you
to
know,
see you,
I
I guess.
pop
great
in
to
from
have
time
you.
to time. It happens.
All right, we're gonna wrap this stuff up. This was the podcast. I'm Carter.
Nick.
And I'm Calum from the Castbox.
Have an awesome weekend. That was a long episode, but a good one.
Oh, geez. Probably, but how long was it?